نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي ربي يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح ربي زدني علما اللهم فقهنا في الدين اللهم فقهنا في الدين اللهم فقهنا في الدين ربي هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين ربي هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين ربي هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين ربي اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين ربي اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين ربي اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين آمين يا أرحم الراحمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, Alhamdulillah, we are at ayah number 268 in Surah Al-Baqarah, and we will be talking about 4 ayats, 268 until 271 today, inshallah. And we'll start with the word by word meaning. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim.
الشيطان يعدكم الفقر ويأمركم بالفحشاء والله يعدكم مغفرة منه وفضلا والله واسع عليم.
Ash-shaytanu, shaitan, and shaitan here refers to the big shaitan, Iblis, or so shaitan comes from the root words sha, ta, sheen, ta, and noon, and it refers to somebody that is away from Allah's rahmah. So the name of the shaitan was Iblis, and he's called shaitan because what he did was he disobeyed Allah Ta'ala, and after disobeying, he was haughty about it, and he was and we learned that story before, and that's when he got the name. And then Allah Ta'ala basically asked him to get out of the place that he was in, and he was told he was sent away from Allah's rahmah, and that's why his name is Shaitan. And we know there are shayateen in jinns, and there are also shayateen in human beings. So Ash-shaytanu, what does shaitan do? Ash-shaytanu ya'idukum. Kum refers to all of you, and meaning to the believers, to Muslims, to people. Ya'idu, he promises you. And he, ya, ain, and dal. Here, ya'id, it refers to like threatening somebody for something, or also refers to promising somebody for something. So it can be used in both sense, that do some waswasa as well in terms of shaitan. When it's used for shaitan, it can be used for waswasa as well. That he promises something, or he threatens you with something, or he's like he tries to incite some fear in you about something, or gives you some kind of hope for something or something else, right? So it could be used in all these senses. Here it refers to that he promises you, meaning he threatens you with, all of you, with al-faqr. Faqr is like we also say, like a person who's a beggar. The term we use is faqir. Somebody who's a faqir means that he is he's so poor, he is so destitute and so poor that his back is broken, literally, metaphorically, like we say in different languages, that his back is broken with the poverty, with being so much poor and so much in need, that he is faqir. Now that he just needs something. And it's so beautiful that we ask Allah Ta'ala in the dua, Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khairin faqir, that for the khair from Allah we are faqir, that we are so poor, we are so much in need, that we are faqir for khair from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the word faqara here. So here it means that shaitan threatens you with, or shaitan puts the fear of poverty in your hearts. Shaitan tries to do waswasa, and that's all shaitan can do. That we learn from the Quran and Hadith, that shaitan can only do waswasa. Shaitan cannot make us do something. Shaitan can only put thoughts and things in our mind, and try to pull us towards something, try to create these thoughts and waswasa all the time. But shaitan cannot physically make us do something. So what does shaitan do? And we were talking about charity from the previous ayat. So it's ties into the previous ayat. So shaitan promises you, ya'idukumul faqra, with poverty, wa ya'murukum, and he amar is to order, and ya'murukum, kum refers to all of you, wa is another word, and he orders all of you. Ya'muru, he orders, and he is going back to shaitan. So shaitan orders all of you bil fahsha'i, towards fahsha. And fahsha, it refers to immorality of different kinds, and it is used in different sense in the Quran. Several times in the Quran, it is used for a lot of manifest kinds of indecency, things like adultery, things like zina, things like things of a very lewd nature, like obscene books and novels and magazines, and we can think of dance clubs and where a lot of immoral things are happening, or films with a lot of immoral things, and especially of the adulterous nature, to and a lot of show off and everything, but it refers to all kinds of immorality, but used mostly for those kind of things which are of a lewd and sensual nature. So Shaitan promises you towards poverty, and he orders you towards immorality, towards these things. Wallahu, and on the other hand, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ya'idukum, he promises you maghfiratan. He promises you maghfirah. He promises you forgiveness. Mikfar, one of the ways scholars have looked at this is maghfirah is from the root of migfar. Migfar is used, the word is used for a helmet, which let's say if somebody is riding a bike and he's wearing a helmet, and that helmet is there to protect them from an accident. If any accident happened, then it protects them from an injury. That's why people wear a helmet, and that a helmet in Arabic is called a migfar. And maghfirah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in that sense, is a helmet, is a protective device that will save us from the punishment of hellfire. So Allah ta'ala promises us maghfirah, and istighfar comes from the same thing. Ghafara, that istighfar comes from the same thing. Istighfar is like when we are seeking something. That suffix, that phrase, we put it to means seeking something. And when we do a lot of istighfar, we are seeking the maghfirah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah ta'ala promises you maghfirah minhu, from him, wa fadlan, and fadl. Fadl is a bounty of Allah ta'ala, but fadl is a specific kind of bounty. And we hear the word fadl a lot in many du'as as well. Like for example, to enter the masjid, we say, while we are entering a masjid, we say, Allahumma aftah li abwaba rahmatika wa fadlika. Ya Allah, open the doors for me, the doors of your rahmah and your fadl. Right? So fadl is a bounty of Allah, blessing of Allah, but it is a kind of bounty which is over and above what you deserve. So somebody, for example, I might work somewhere at a job, and my salary is, let's say, $1,000, but I get $1,000 and I get an extra. I didn't really deserve it. There was no talk of any bonus or something, but then I get an extra $2,000 as a bonus, or something else comes up and I get this thing which was over and above what was deserved. And of course, there's no example for Allah Ta'ala, but we use examples for ourselves to understand. So fadl is something that is given more than what we deserve. So we ask Allah Ta'ala for his fadl, and Allah Ta'ala promises us maghfirah and fadl. Wallahu, and Allah Ta'ala, wasi'un, he is all encompassing. He's wasi, he's wasi, he's vast, all encompassing, and he is alim, from ayn, lam, and mim. And alim means all knowing, and it's an exaggerated form like rahim, alim, on the same pattern. So alim means who has ilm, but whose ilm is always constant. It's always there. It's his ilm never goes down, and he has all the knowledge that there is to have. Then in the next, then the next ayah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
يؤتي الحكمة من يشاء ومن يؤت الحكمة فقد أوتي خيرا كثيرا وما يذكر إلا أولو الألباب.
So يؤتي, he gives, he grants, al-hikmata, hikmah. We will go a little more in details. What does hikmah mean? We have learned this before as well, though. Hakama, hikmah means wisdom. So as opposed to just knowledge, hikmah means to doing the right thing at the right time at the right place. And hikmah literally means to put the right thing at the right place. And in a way, the opposite, in one way, the opposite of it would be dhulm, because what does dhulm mean? Dhulm means to take something and put it where it does not belong. That is dhulm. And hikmah, on the other hand, is putting something exactly where it belongs and doing it at the right time, at the right place, in the right way. That is hikmah. So Allah Ta'ala gives hikmah man yasha, to whoever He wills. Waman, and whoever yu'ta, is granted al hikmata, the hikmah, the wisdom, faqad, then certainly, qad is certainly, and for is then, utiya, he is being granted. So this is passive. Utiya is granted. So he is granted. And who is he here referred to? The one who has been given hikmah. So the one who has been given hikmah has been granted khayran kathira, has been granted good, khair, which is kathir, which is abundant, which there is a lot of it. It's a lot of goodness. You can't understand how much goodness there is, but there's a lot of goodness in hikmah that Allah Ta'ala gives to whoever He wants. Wama, and nobody yadhakkaru, remembers what? Remembers this thing, or takes heed of this thing, illa, except ulul albab. Ulu, those who. Albab, refers to people. Ulul albab is a term that is used several times in the Quran, and it refers to people of understanding. Like in Urdu and other languages, we say uh, the the if you squeeze a fruit out, and then uh, whatever is the nichor of that, whatever is the, after you squeeze the fruit out, whatever is left, whatever is the core of that fruit, the basic taste of that fruit, that is called the lubbe of that fruit, right? Like that, what is the summary of something and everything. So it is used in the sense of the people of understanding who go to the core of something, who don't just stay superficial in their knowledge, but the people who have deeper knowledge. Ulul albab is a term used for people of understanding, like that in several times in the Quran. So Allah in this ayah, Allah Ta'ala is telling us He gives wisdom to whom He wills, and whoever He has given wisdom has certainly been given much good, and none will remember except those of understanding. And then in the next ayah, Allah Ta'ala says, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim.
وما أنفقتم من نفقة أو نذرتم من نذر فإن الله يعلمه وما للظالمين من أنصار.
Wama, and whatever, anfaqtum, you spend. So tum refers to all of you. Anfaq is like you are spending something. Nafaqa, we've learned before, is comes for spending. So, and whatever you spend, min nafaqatin, of your expenditures. And nafaqatin here refers to all kinds of expenditures, meaning I go and do groceries, and I get my groceries and everything. Those would be added to the expenditure. This is not just referring to charity here. It's referring to all day-to-day expenses, that whatever we are doing, anything that we are spending anything on, whether we are spending any money or something, whether we are spending any time on something, whether we are spending any talents on something, whether we are spending any of our energies on something, whatever we are spending of our expenditures, or nazartum, whatever you vow. So there are two things here, our expenditures and our vows. And another is a kind of vow that, for example, somebody would make a vow that, yeah, Allah, I really want this. And let's say somebody is going to have an examination, and the child says, yeah, Allah, this is a difficult exam. I've prepared a lot, but I'm a bit scared. So if I clear this exam, then I will give this much in charity, or then I will pray 2 rakat of nafil, or then I will do this, Ya Allah, help me do this. And while making that dua, they make this nadar, they make this promise or this vow to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that if this happens, then I will do that. So that kind of a condition is called a vow, another, a special kind of vow that you make when you're making dua. So whatever you are spending and whatever you are making a vow of, min nadrin, from the vows, fa inna Allah, then indeed, inna, definitely, there is no doubt about it, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ya'lamuhu, that Allah ta'ala, He knows it. Who refers to it? It meaning any of the vow that you have done or any of the expenditure you have done. Allah ta'ala knows all of it. Wama, and not lidhalimina, for those who do dhulm. Dhalimina, those who do dhulm. And dhulm, like we said before, is doing something incorrectly, putting something where it does not belong. Min Ansar. They do not have any Ansar. Ansar from Nasara, which means and Ansar refers to helpers. Like the people of Medina, they were called the Ansar. Why? Because they helped the Mujahid, those who did the Hijrah. Right. So those people who came from Mecca and did Hijrah, the people of Medina, they opened their doors and their homes and their risk and everything for them, and they helped them, and they helped the Prophet ﷺ. They called the Prophet ﷺ there, and they were there for them. So that's why they're called Ansar. But in a literal sense, Ansar means helpers. So, and for the wrongdoers, there are no helpers. So here Allah Ta'ala is saying that whatever you spend of your expenditures or you make of vows, indeed Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala knows of it. And for the wrongdoers, there are no helpers at all. Then the next ayah, ayah number 271. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله.
إن تبدوا الصدقات فنعما هي وإن تخفوها وتؤتوها الفقراء فهو خير لكم ويكفر عنكم من سيئاتكم والله بما تعملون خبير.
In, if, tubdu, you disclose, as-sadaqati, your sadaqat. Sadaqa meaning charities. If you disclose your charities, fa ni'imma, then, well, if it has ni'ma, it has blessing. Here it is, then it is well for you. It is good for you. Wa in, but if tukhfuha, you keep it secret. Khafi is to keep something secret. Right? If you keep it secret, wa tuha, and give it. It's to give, ha, it is to for the sadaqah. But if you keep it secret and give it al fuqara to the poor, fahuwa khairul lakum, then it is better for you. So it is basically this is saying that you are this charity is good as well. The one that you disclose and give it openly, there's no harm in that. That is good as well. But the one that you keep hidden and you give it to the poor, keeping it hidden, then that is better for you. وَيُكَفِّرُ, and he will remove, and Allah here he will remove meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remove. So and Allah will remove, Allah ta'ala will remove, because this is continuing from the previous ayah. So وَيُكَفِّرُ عَنْكُمْ, and he will remove ankum, an plus kum. Kum refers to all of you. An is a harf meaning from. So he will remove from you min of sayyi'atikum, of your evil deeds or your sayyi'at. There's so it refers to evil deeds or anything that can harm. So any kind of harm there is, it's all anything that we don't like, anything that is harmful or distasteful for us is sayyi'at. So we'll cover a little more in the tafsir inshallah. But he will remove from you all your evil deeds or your sins, anything that harm you, things which are meant to harm you, any hardships that are coming your way or anything that is coming your way, then Allah Ta'ala will remove them from you. Wallahu, and Allah Ta'ala, bima, of what ta'amaluna, you do, khabir, is all aware. So here Allah Ta'ala is telling us that if you disclose of your charitable expenditures, then that's good. But if you conceal them then and give them to the poor, then it is better for you. And he will remove from you some of your misdeeds because of this giving, and Allah Ta'ala is fully aware of what you do. So we'll go in a little bit more detail now. The first ayah, ash-shaytanu ya'idukumul faqra wa ya'murukum bil fahsha wallahu ya'idukum maghfiratam minhu wa fadla wallahu wasi'un alim. So shaitan threatens us with poverty and he orders us to do immorality, while Allah promises us forgiveness from him and bounty, and Allah is all encompassing and knowing. So in the previous ayat that we learned before this, Allah Ta'ala was telling us about charity, that we should give for the sake of Allah Ta'ala, and what are the reasons why we should give for the sake of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. But when somebody makes, let's say somebody makes an intention, I'm going to give for the sake of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Obviously, when you are trying to get closer to Allah Ta'ala or His Rahmah, then there is one entity who will try to dissuade us from it, who gets upset when we are trying to get closer to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and he wants to stop us from doing it. And there are two of his tactics that Allah Ta'ala has made us aware of, two of his attacks that he does, which Allah Ta'ala has told us, which from which we can protect ourselves, and we need to protect ourselves because he will do it for each one of us, and he will get successful with some people at some point, and then he will not be able to be successful. But as long as we keep are aware and we keep, protect ourselves, then we will be more aware of it. So what does shaitan do? Shaitan does waswasa, and he tries to scare us of poverty, that you know what, you have this much money, if you give it, you know what, like what will you have for this? Do you know, don't you know you have this expense coming up in 3 months? What will happen if you give all this money? Don't your family needs this? Don't you need this? What are you going to do with all of this money? Why do you think you're giving all of this in charity? You know what, like the economy is going down, and there's so bad economic conditions and everything, and the expenses are going up. How are you going to, and every penny is precious, and here you are thinking about donating this much for this cause, this much for this cause, this much for that cause. What are you trying to do? Right? So what shaitan tries to do is he tries to put the fear of poverty in people, that you know what, you won't be able to carry on, you won't be able to do these things and everything. And so he and this is the thing of shaitan, that he tries to put hurdles in any work of khair that is trying to, that anybody's trying to do, any work of khair that we are trying to do, or any work that through which we are trying to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He tries to create obstacles in it. And the obstacles will be there. We know that, but Allah Ta'ala lets the test come into our life, but then Allah Ta'ala also gives us tools to navigate those tests. Allah Ta'ala does not just give us the test and leave us like that. He gives us the tools, how what will we do about it. And the first thing is knowledge. So Allah Ta'ala is telling us that He will put this in your heart and everything. And when what happens is, when somebody stops from all this, from spending for the sake of Allah, then what happens? Then wealth starts to accumulate. Then they start having this wealth, and the money, they have some more money. First, the person has just enough money for buying, let's say, 2 meals and everything, but then slowly the person has something in the bank account. They have some gadgets at home, they have a car, they have a home, they have things like that, and money starts accumulating. But beyond certain needs, what happens is, when any people start accumulating money which is more than their needs, then what happens is, then shaitan does another trick. Then shaitan uh, orders them towards them, or tries to motivate them towards fahsha. Fahsha is, then now, because you have this money, he makes a person spend this money into things which are immoral in nature. Because then so a lot of people, what we'll see in today's world is, a lot of people who have extra wealth, a lot of money, they're so wealthy and everything, they'll spend a lot on entertainment, they'll spend a lot on things um, which are of a lewd and immoral nature, generally speaking, and especially of things which are very sensual nature. And we live in a society where we see this all the time, that there is so much money and so much time and energy being spent on producing films. And so the same person who has a talent of creating films and communications and everything, can we imagine if the same people who are producing blockbusters and this and that, if they were using their talents to create content, or use their skills to make things to guide, to help people learn Islamic knowledge, and to create videos, to create different kind of communications and things, if they were using that same time and energy to create things which would take people towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rather than fasha, rather than things of immoral nature, rather than things which take people away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or which Allah ta'ala does not like, then how much could they achieve with their talents? How much could they achieve with their money? And like money could be very beneficial if we use it for good things. Like they could produce books, they could help go print books, they could, people who are writing like so many novels, and a lot of obscene novels even, if the same people were to write, they put their hearts towards pleasing God, and they were to write and design and print and distribute books of a nature of things that will bring us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, things about akhlaq, things about good manners and everything, how much good deeds could they earn? But shaitan, what he makes them do is, people will keep crying, everything's so expensive, everything's so expensive, and like life is so expensive, things are so hard to manage, and like we have to cut costs and everything, and we have to do this. But if we look at the same people, what are they spending on? Then they're spending on movies, which is not cheap. If they're spending on fireworks, they're spending on extra lights in their homes, they're spending the lights upon lights that they don't really need that much. They're spending so much on marriages. If you look at the marriages today, they are full of like show off, in the sense of jewelry, in the sense of the kind of food and the kind of wastage that there is, and the kind of, even the kind of uh, showing off the body that is there in a lot of marriages, the kind of dressing up that is the way everywhere it is going is a lot of clothing. It seems like it's not hiding much, it's showing more than it's hiding. Like it's meant to, if you look at a lot of high-end events, or this we go to, we see things on television or this and that, a lot of dresses of the big and famous people, they're designed in such a way that they make the body shape even more prominent rather than hiding it. The purpose of clothing is to hide the shape of the body and make it modest and everything to, but the clothes nowadays is for the big and famous people is used for totally the opposite sense, right? For what it is not supposed to do. And grand marriages are like people look forward to grand marriages and everything. But what happens in a grand marriage in Islam, the concept of a marriage is that it completes your deen. Your partner completes your deen, and you help each other towards becoming better and towards gaining the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what does shaitan do? Grand marriages is like just in the marriage, in the beginning of marriage, there is in the marriage ceremonies itself, there are so many things that are done which are not pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's so much show off, there's so much wastage, there is so much there's so much indecent things happening there. And if we see a lot of rich people, they spend a lot of amount, but they spend a lot in show off, and a lot of money spent on useless things. Like a bride will come and there'll be a platform on which she will come, and then the platform will rotate, and then the flowers will like there'll be like a thing that will like a machine that will shower the flowers everywhere and everything. Alhamdulillah, it's nice and everything, but the thing is, um, there is no end to how much you can spend, which is for show off, for showing people how rich we are. The groom, instead of coming by the car, he's going to come by the helicopter, and there is going to be like so much thing. What is all this? What is it? Is showing off how much money I have. And then what it leads to is, in a society, as what it leads to competition between people. It leads to like, okay, they did this, now I have to do something to match up. And in doing this, in this competition, in when we take simple ceremonies and we keep making them more and more exorbitant, more and more grand and everything, it makes it difficult for a common man to live in that society, because the expectations keep going up, while their own salaries, while their own income, while their own expenses and everything, they're not being able to match up to all of this. And then things like marriages started to become hard, because then a person is like, oh my God, I have to marry my daughter. What will I do? And it's a lot of stress involved in everything. But if we keep things simple, then it is different, right? So fahsha is also relating to the previous ayat. Fahsha is also not giving in the path of Allah, is also a kind of immorality, because to not give zakat, because if somebody owes to give zakat, they have a certain amount of wealth, and there is zakat which is owed to them, they should be giving zakat, but they don't give it, then what is that? Is also a fahsha. Then they're doing something which they're not supposed to do. So which is something that shaitan will order. Shaitan would say, no, 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 don't do this, don't do this. And anything good, he'll stop the person from. As opposed to that, anything bad or anything that is because what is the aim of shaitan? Shaitan does not want man to spend on charitable causes, because he does not want people to go closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On the other hand, what we see is Allah Ta'ala, on the other hand, He promises forgiveness and grace. Maghfirah is used in contradiction to fahsha, right? So maghfirah is the opposite here of fahsha, that Allah Ta'ala gives us something that will protect us from the hellfire, something that will protect us from fahsha, because when we are forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and as opposed to that, fahsha is the sins, right? So one is the sins and one is the maghfirah, which is the exact opposite in this sense. And he promises us fadl from himself. And fadl here is the opposite of faqr. that shaitan is giving you, making, putting fear in you of, poverty. You'll have this, you won't be able to do this. On the other hand, Allah Ta'ala is saying, don't fear poverty. Don't think about it. The shaitan is trying to scare you, but don't think that you will become poor by giving for the sake of Allah. In fact, Allah Ta'ala will give you way more. And whatever you give, it is there with Allah for you, and He will save it for you. He's not going to, even in this world, Allah Ta'ala will not deprive a person who gives sadaqah, who has an open hand, who gives easily and everything. And what we need to see is whose whose word is more truthful and more important in our own lives. Do we believe things that shaitan does waswasa towards us, or do we believe the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because Allah ta'ala has promised us that give with an open heart, give and don't worry about it, don't feel. And yes, shaitan will put those thoughts in your mind before giving. Those thoughts will come in your mind that you know what, this $100 that I'm thinking of donating to this person who's in need, maybe I could buy this much for my children, or maybe I could buy this thing for myself. I have been thinking of buying that. What if I buy that? So shaitan will put these thoughts, but then if you overcome them and you give for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that's when Allah ta'ala promises you a lot of things, right? And we know regarding the promises of shaitan at other place in Surah Ibrahim, for example, in the Quran, that we learn the dialogue of shaitan on the day of judgment. And we know from that all his promises were false. All the promises that he made, they were all lies. And on the day of judgment, he'll say, I just called you towards it. You are the one who followed me. So don't blame me, blame yourself. And he'll just like literally like, I wash my hands off you, and he'll go away. On the other hand, Allah Ta'ala and Rasul Sallallahu have made us a lot of promises. And one of the promises that the Prophet Sallallahu promised us was that sadaqah will not reduce your wealth. So don't think about that. Don't think like that. And Allah Ta'ala is motivating us towards giving more by saying that He is Wasi and Alim. If the fear still stays in your heart, then remember that Allah Ta'ala is Wasi and He is Alim, meaning He has the wealth, He has the treasures which are unlimited. There's no limit to the treasures of Allah Ta'ala. When He gives, He can give in a way that you can't even imagine. In a way that the whole mankind comes together, they can't even imagine. That's how Allah can give. When He comes to give, then His treasures are unlimited. You have no idea. And He's Alim, meaning He knows everything that you do for His sake, whether whatever your intentions, whether you give it open, whether you give it hidden, whatever your intentions were while giving something, and any deeds that you do, Allah Ta'ala knows everything about everyone. Right? And He does not, when He gives, He does not like count and give like we what human beings, subhanallah, we are so weak. We have a little bit of wealth that Allah Ta'ala gives us, and while giving we count, okay, I'll give like this much to this, and I'll give this much to this, and I'll give this much, and then this much will be left, and I'll do this. Then we have and there's no there's no feeling guilty about this. This is human nature. This is natural that we do this hisab in our minds, that things go on. Okay, what will we do with this and this? Because we have limited resources, that and those resources too are not ours. They are given to us by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. But Allah Ta'ala is the one who has no limits in everything, right? So one thing here is that it motivates us as believers to open our own hearts, that the one that I'm attached to, the one who's taking care of me, the one who's created me, then the one who's sustaining me, the one who maintains me, and the one who provides for me is the one who's wasiya. He is wasiun alim. He has so much to give that I can give, and then he'll give me more. And I have this strong conviction in my heart that He will give me more, then I will be able to give more. Anybody who does not have this strong conviction that Allah Ta'ala will give me if I'm giving, then it will be hard for that person. If that belief in this promise is not strong, then giving would become harder. But when this belief is strong, then giving becomes easier. Right? And there are a lot of hadith to this effect that the Prophet ﷺ has told us. There are several of them, and obviously there's so many that they can't, obviously even the whole class would not be enough to just talk about those hadith. And basically Allah Ta'ala tells us to through the Prophet ﷺ that He likes even a person who's jahil, who does not have much knowledge, but he gives a lot, is more beloved to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala than somebody who has a lot of knowledge but he is stingy. and everything. So Allah Ta'ala likes, there are so much benefit, there's so much fazila, there's so much high rank given to knowledge in our religion. Yet a person who does not have enough knowledge but who gives a lot, who's very generous to people and to the other creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's very, very generous, he has an open, or she has an open heart and open hand, then that person becomes more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in another hadith narrated by Abu Huraira, anhu, the Prophet ﷺ told us that there's a tree in Jannah, and that tree is for people basically who are generous and everything. And the branches of that tree are hanging outside Jannah. And if you are a person that who has been giving a lot in your life, then those branches, you will hold on to those branches and they'll pull you in if you hold on to them, right? And similarly for stinginess, also there is a tree in Jahannam. So we need to see where we want to go, right? And Ali radiallahu anhu said in one of the things is that be quick in giving charity. And why? Because any musibah that is coming your way, any hardship that is coming your way, you don't know what hardships are coming your way, but maybe there are some hardships that are coming your way. They cannot climb on top of sadaqah and come. So if and in other hadith we learn that any musibah that is coming, any hardship, any trouble that is coming our way, and when it is coming our way and we send sadaqah, we give sadaqah, what happens is sadaqah goes up and they crash with each other. The sadaqah and musibah, they fight with each other. And if our sadaqah is strong, it pushes away the musibah, and that musibah does not hit us anymore. So something, if we fear any hardship is coming, if we fear some people in our life, or if we fear any hardship, or if we are in certain hardship, then it is a good idea to give some sadaqah. Even like in a lot of dawah workshops, they say that if you're going to do some good, then one way to do good is while you're going to do good, or even if you're going to talk to somebody about Islam and invite them to Islam or things like that, it is a good idea before you start talking to them, take out some sadaqah and give some sadaqah. Because what happens is sadaqah kind of empowers you. It and it one good deed kind of becomes opens the door for another good deed. So Allah Ta'ala opens another door for us when we do one good deed. So giving sadaqah stops hardships from coming our way. It opens the door for more and more fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It opens the door of maghfirah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in this ayah, Allah Ta'ala has shown us two ways, two paths are being shown. One is that of the shaitan, and shaitan is encouraging people to waste money on pleasures and leading to pride and show off and self-indulgence, and ultimately, which will land the person in hellfire. On the other hand, Allah Ta'ala is inviting a person to spend on his causes and cause them to his forgiveness and fadl and paradise. Because why? When we spend for the sake of Allah, we'll have humility, we'll develop piety. And shaitan is using fear of poverty to motivate the person with horrible images of poverty and this and that. On the other hand, Allah Ta'ala is promising the motive so beautifully. Allah Ta'ala is promising us that even while promising, he's promising us with unlimited blessings. It's like he's telling you, shaitan is telling you about that you will be poor and this and that. It's actually the opposite. Allah Ta'ala is offering you unlimited blessings in this life and the life to come. And why is it? Because for their good deeds and sacrifices, Allah Ta'ala is the one who rewards us. He is the source of all bounties, and He is fully aware of any work of sacrifice that we do in His cause, and He generously rewards us for each and every effort that we make. Any cause or any effort that we make, sometimes what happens is we are doing something for the sake of Allah, whether we are putting our time or whether we are putting our energy or we are putting our money. When we are putting something and we see that maybe people around us, maybe our own family members, our children, our husbands or wife, for a person, or parents or community members, friends, they're like, why are you putting so much time into it? Or they're upset with us about because they used to see us much more and now we are not that available for them because she's always studying, she's always doing something, and you're always into something. I don't have much time, you don't have much time for us anymore, or this and that. Although if you think realistically, you are, if of course, if you're not doing something that you're supposed to be doing, like if I stop cooking food for my family, if I stop taking care of my family's needs, then of course I need to take stock, because Allah Ta'ala does not ask us to leave those. But if I am taking care of my family needs, but I'm just cut down on the extra bits, and I'm devoting that time or that money or that energy towards some causes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then obviously some people will get upset. And sometimes when a lot of people are upset with us, then shaitan puts this thought in us: are your good deeds even accepted? Look around you. Everybody you love is upset with you. All these people are upset with you, which are good people. They're people who love you so much, and they are all upset with you. Are you sure you're doing good thing, or are you doing in the right way? So shaitan puts all these thoughts, but Allah Ta'ala on the other hand tells us that He is Wasi'un Alim. He knows everything. How hard it was for you to spend those 10 minutes of, let's say, studying something, instead of you could have just gone and played a game on your phone instead, or you could have just, like just chatted to somebody, and it would have lightened you up. Maybe people who are, maybe you were sitting in a group and there are people you love and enjoy their company, and they started backbiting about somebody, and you're like, no, this is not right. And although you couldn't do anything, you couldn't stop them, obviously, because you knew that if you try to stop them, then it is going to backfire. They're not going to like it, and it's going to increase that. Like, so going to increase the negativity in the atmosphere. So you just get up and leave or something. And although you were craving that company, and you were like, I wish they were not doing this, so I could have stayed there. But Allah knew what you did. You sacrificed your time with your friends because they were engaging in something that you did not that you knew that Allah Ta'ala does not approve of. And when you get up and leave, even though shaitan will um, try to trick you, saying about poverty is not just monetary poverty, it's also like um, people's pleasure, the pleasure of people around you, or the approval of people around you, and which can impact each one of us. We are human beings, and it is natural for us to be impacted. We love people. We are social beings, and we love love to interact with people in positive manner, and we don't like negativity of any kind. So shaitan will use that to his advantage. But then we have to remember that Allah Ta'ala, even those the love of those same people, Allah Ta'ala will give it back to us. Even if we annoy some people for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course with wisdom, but then if we do that, then Allah Ta'ala will protect us, and He will give it back to us. If even if we lose it for a small period of time, Allah Ta'ala will not keep us in that loss for a long time. Also, when someone turns away from divine promise, when Allah Ta'ala has promised us maghfirah and He's promised us for that, but someone goes away from this divine promise and like, no, 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 I'm not gonna spend or whatever and everything, what happens is his mind then takes him to rely on the promise of shaitan. Right? So if we don't follow Allah, we'll follow somebody else. It is our nature to follow somebody. And if we don't follow shaitan, then if we don't astaghfirullah, if we don't follow the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then shaitan is going to start to impact us and becoming more and more prominent in the life of such a person. May Allah ta'ala forgive us and protect us from that, and may Allah ta'ala keep us in his aman. How does Allah ta'ala increase us? Allah Ta'ala increases by in different ways. First is He puts barakah in whatever we have. So if I have $1,000, I might be able to buy 10 things from that. But um, in those 10 things, Allah Ta'ala will put barakah. They will last more. I will be able to get more benefit out of them. A lot of khair will be put into it, and a lot of barakah will be in there. Also, Allah Ta'ala can increases us sometimes by giving us more risk from somewhere we did not expect. And risk is not just money; it could be love, it could be attention, it could be energy, it could be different resources, it could be help in different ways. So there could be different kinds of risk, and Allah Ta'ala will give us risk from where we did not expect. Sometimes, as we said, hardships are averted. But what happens is any hardship that is coming, supposing, let's say, I was going to be sick or something, but if I was sick, I would have had to buy these medicines. I would need to buy this sum. Maybe I need to do this and everything, and I need to go to the hospital. I need to do this. It will take away my time. It will take away my money. It will take away all these things. So these hardships, if they had hit me, they would have eaten a lot of my risk, eaten away, and wasted a lot of my money and time and energy. But by averting these hardships that were going to come, Allah Ta'ala protects us and increases us through that as well. And then there's another thing that Allah Ta'ala gives us when we spend in His way, which Allah Ta'ala tells us in the next ayah, is that He gives us wisdom. He says that He gives wisdom to whom He wills, and whoever has been given wisdom has certainly been given much good. And none will remember this except those of understanding. So, one thing we are learning is the master key to wisdom. We all want wisdom. What is wisdom? First of all, Wisdom is doing things the way they should be done, putting the right thing at the right place at the right time, right? And what we learn is the real wealth of this world is not money or property, but it is wisdom, which is basically foresightedness in a person. Wisdom is something that directs a person to do acts in which there is real benefit. And this is said to be the master key of like the master key to wisdom. To get wisdom is to spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wisdom is something that we cannot acquire by ourselves. The treasures of wisdom are with Allah ta'ala. We can acquire knowledge, we can go after knowledge. We can study in universities and schools and colleges and classes and everything, but in the same class we will see there are 10 people who are learning the same thing, but they all get up with and do different things with the same knowledge. There might be a scientist who's spending their time creating nuclear weapons, and there's another scientist who's spending time creating how water systems of a place can be used more effectively so that the people who don't have access to clean water have access to clean water. Now the two people, both of them learned science, but then the hikmah, the wisdom of where to use this knowledge. You got this knowledge, but where and how to use this knowledge is then something that only comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah ta'ala is telling us in this ayah, through these ayat, that how do you get wisdom? How do you ask Allah ta'ala for wisdom, and how does He give wisdom? First of all, Allah ta'ala gives wisdom to whom He wills. You cannot own wisdom, you cannot attract wisdom, you cannot go and buy it from anywhere. You will not get wisdom like that. So many people of the world, we see they are so highly educated, but we find that they have the same people, they have studied in universities, they have double PhDs, this and that, or they're doctors and engineers and everything. And yet when it comes to wisdom, you're like, you don't understand this simple thing about, but why do they not get it? Because they have not received hikmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah ta'ala gives it to whom He wills. And who does Allah ta'ala give it to? Even Allah Ta'ala's giving of this wisdom is according to His wisdom, right? So wisdom of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala is the owner of all wisdom, and He gives it to those who see His pleasure. Allah Ta'ala gives it to those whom He wills, but for whom does He will it? For those people who are seeking the pleasure of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Then Allah Ta'ala gives them this other gift of wisdom, right? And which is and again, we can think of wisdom like we learned about one example of a farmer some time back, is about a farmer has the seeds, but to plant those seeds in the right soil, in the right season, have the right quality of seeds, protect the seed from the weeds, and nourish it with water, just enough water. Don't flood it with too much water, and don't deprive it of enough water. All that is wisdom. Doing things in an optimal way is wisdom. Right. So Allah Ta'ala teaches us that when we give for the sake of Allah Ta'ala, then give it with, ask Allah Ta'ala for wisdom and give it with wisdom. From whatever Allah Ta'ala has given us, use your wisdom and do it. So for example, if there is an emergency situation, then obviously becomes more important to spend in that sake. Also, wisdom would make a difference in the sense, for example, if we give a child, there's a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, and we give them $100 and ask them, okay, you can spend it to whoever on whatever you want, go in the supermarket. What would a child usually spend it on? A child would usually spend it on something that looks attractive to them. They'll probably buy a lot of candies, some toys, and this and that. If the same $100 are given to somebody who's grown up and everything, what they would do is they would try to buy food that would some groceries or something that would feed the family for at least for 2 or 3 meals or something like that. So what is the difference here? The difference here is wisdom. Right. And in a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ told us that there are two people who you can be envious of. Envy is not good, but there are two kind of people who you should be envious of in a positive sense, that in the sense that wow, they're doing good and I should do that as well. Not to that blessing be taken away from them, but I be given that blessing too. And those two people are one person whom Allah Ta'ala has given wealth, and he's spending that wealth day and night in the way of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And another second person is whom Allah Ta'ala has given ilm and hikmah, whom Allah Ta'ala has given knowledge and wisdom, and that person is using their time and their thing to spread that ilm and then hikmah amongst people. They're making people wealthy. They're spending that time in spreading that wealth and that ilm and then hikmah, the wealth of that ilm and that hikmah. Another thing is that we've talked about this before, that we should spend our wealth with hikmah. And nowadays, if we look at all of our expenditures, we don't even have hikmah to spend on our own sake, let alone for Allah's causes, right? Like previous time, if we talk to our mothers and their generation, if they had some money, they would want to buy jewelry and things of gold so that it can be, it's not only looks good, but then it can be used to, if there are some hardships in the family, then you can sell it and you can use it for your family's needs. But nowadays, if we give to youngsters the same amount, they will go and spend the same amount on like fake jewelry and this and that, which looks good and everything, but it has no value. And in fact, if we learn about the different kind of jewelry, for example, diamond does not really have much value. It is all like more marketing, and because of marketing tactics and everything, diamond has been made so to like feel so valuable. But if somebody owns a lot of small diamonds, then they don't, or a jewelry which has diamonds, some diamonds and this and that, the resale value of diamonds is not that much as opposed to gold, of course. So um, we there's hikmah in how we spend and do our things, right? And which is for our own expenditure as well. And if we look at spending something, then, or we look at starting something and everything, then nothing can run just on donations. So for example, if you look at the Masjid al-Haram, if may Allah Ta'ala take us there again and again to Makkah and Medina, there are no donation boxes there. There are no donation boxes at all there. You cannot find anything. How is the place run? And there are hundreds and thousands of people coming there literally every week. So many people coming in and out there all the time. They're drinking Zamzam nonstop. So many people. There are like water coolers on every 5 feet. There's a water cooler there, and you take the Zamzam water, and so many people are coming and drinking and drinking and drinking. And yet, there are cleaners working all the time. There's so much facilities. There's lighting and everything. There's so much things to be maintained. Yet not a single donation box, right? And that is the fadl of Allah. And Allah Ta'ala has given them hikmah on how to manage those things there, right? How to run those things. And a lot of scholars say, what you say is, supposing we're going to start doing something for the sake of Allah, start doing it. Even if, so somebody who wants to teach, let's say, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has some knowledge, start teaching, even if it's under a tree and you don't have a place and everything. As the place starts getting filled up, Allah Ta'ala will give you a bigger place. So in receiving as well as in giving. So sometimes we might be people who might be receiving. Some other people might sponsor things or want to invest in the things that we are doing. So let's say one person has money, but the other person has some talents, or they have an organization, or they're doing something for the sake of Allah. Then the one who has money says, okay, can I invest something in any of your causes? Can I give you certain money, and then you put this, and then when we receive that money also, we need to be wise in how do we use, because this is an amana from somebody. So we need to work and not waste that money, but use it in wise ways and everything. And that wisdom will also come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will grant it, grant that wisdom. And when Allah gives wisdom, there's a lot of khair in it. There's a lot of goodness in it, right? And there's several meanings again of hikmah in different places. Hikmah means different places, different things. Even in the Quran and Hadith, we learn a lot of different places. So for example, in ayah 251 earlier in Surah Baqarah itself, we learned that Allah Ta'ala gave kingdom and hikmah to Dawood alayhi salam. And hikmah here is to place everything where it belongs. And in an ideal way, this can only be accomplished through prophethood. So there, hikmah meant prophethood, that Dawud alayhi salam was given prophethood. And when hikmah is attributed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like one of the names of Allah ta'ala is Al-Hakim. So when hikmah is attributed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it denotes, sorry, comprehensive knowledge and solid creative excellence of all things. But when hikmah is attributed to something non-divine, and a human being or a person and everything, like Hakim Luqman is called, there's a surah in the Quran about Luqman, and he was a person who was known for his wisdom. He was known as Hakim Luqman, that he has so much wisdom. So any time it is hikmah is referred to somebody non-divine, then it refers to rightly guided knowledge of all that, whatever they're engaged in or whatever they're doing and everything, and to have an action that corresponds with that knowledge. So having that knowledge, but not just having the knowledge, acting upon that knowledge in the right way as well. According to Ibn Abbas, the understanding of Quran is hikmah, and other places in the Quran, hadith is referred to as hikmah. right? And the knowledge of deen and dunya and khashiyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making the right decisions at the right time, to complete what is said or done with all its properties with all its requirements. That is hikmah. Reading or studying is just one step. Hikmah takes it many steps further, right? And uh, there is hikmah in ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's hikmah in the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's hikmah in the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is hikmah of which amal is at what level. That Allah ta'ala has put some reward in something and more reward in another thing. So there is hikmah, Allah ta'ala's hikmah in that. And there's a hikmah when a person of understanding utilizes that knowledge and tries to invest in the things that will give them most benefit. In that sense, that they try to invest in sadaqah jariyah that will keep going on as opposed to just one thing. Some scholars have said firmness and maturity of belief and practicing it in a way that there's a deep understanding and insight that goes with it. That is hikmah as well. And to understand that which ayah of the Quran is abrogated and by which ayah and what is the ruling, what should be done in what case, that is hikmah as well, right? And the according to a hadith, the secret behind the hikmah is for any person to get hikmah is the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So which is the peak of hikmah is to have khashiyah, to have the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If a person has the fear of Allah ta'ala, then they'll make the right decisions. If the person does not have the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will not be making right decisions. And that's why when any believer, any person who is a believer and he has a firm faith and the fear of Allah ta'ala, when that person is given an opportunity to be a leader in any situation, then he should take up that leadership role. Because for example, Yusuf alayhi salam, what did he do when he was given the opportunity? He saw that opportunity. He in fact volunteered to be the minister and take that opportunity of managing the finances of that whole nation, because he understood that he has those skills and he understood he has the khashiyah of Allah Ta'ala. He will do it in a way that is that is pleasing to Allah Ta'ala. If he does not take that role and somebody else takes that role, they will be creating fitna and they'll be making wrong decisions and everything. So any believer who when he gets that opportunity, he shouldn't shy away from it either. And Allah Ta'ala teaches us that if we ask Allah Ta'ala for hikmah and then we have the fear of Allah Ta'ala, then we should go ahead, inshallah. Allah Ta'ala will help us in whatever decisions or whatever roles we are trying to do. And also we learn that whoever gets hikmah, Allah Ta'ala is telling us that is a khairun kathir, that is a lot of goodness. So what it teaches us is bigger blessing than a big house, a mansion, money, cars, diamonds and jewelries and everything, fame of this world. A bigger blessing than all of that is hikmah. And this is a blessing which cannot be compared to any other blessing. It's such a huge, such a big blessing that no other blessing can compare to it, right? And the khair that comes from hikmah, it cannot be seen. It is in the unseen. So a lot of us don't have the talab or the longing for it, and it comes with a lot of difficulty. It doesn't just come. There's a struggle to get hikmah, and Allah Ta'ala gives it to whom He wants. So we should ask Allah Ta'ala for it. Should be one of our du'as. Rabbi habli, or like Ibrahim alayhi salam made the dua, Rabbi habli hukma wa alhiqni bis salihin. Ya Allah, grant me wisdom and join me with the righteous. Why is He saying join me with the righteous? In the afterlife as well, we want to be joined with the righteous, obviously. But even in this life, Ya Allah, join me with the righteous people. Like I want to work with the righteous people. I want to live with the righteous people. I want to have righteous people around me, because righteous people will not take away my rights. Righteous people will be pleasing to work with, and righteous people will be, like they will please me and I will please them. They will, if I'm doing good things, it won't irritate them, it won't frustrate them, and they will do good as well, which will motivate me as well to do good. So our company impacts us a lot, and we should ask Allah Ta'ala to give us good company, and for hikmah as well. And Allah Ta'ala has, like in this world, if we see, Allah Ta'ala gives provision to different people, and but He gives hikmah and the understanding of deen only to people who are close to Him, right? So He will. So this is something that not just we don't just profess faith from our tongues, but also have it in our heart, and we do things that are pleasing to Allah Ta'ala, like our neighbors are safe from us, and we do good things and everything, then as we get closer to Allah Ta'ala and keep asking Allah Ta'ala for wisdom, inshallah Ta'ala, He will give it to us in different situations. We will know what to do. We will know how to do, right? And one wisdom that is related to all these ayat is, um, وَمَا يَذَّكَّرُ وَمَا يَذَّكَّرُ إِلَّا ulul albab, that only a wise person, only a person of understanding will understand this, the that Allah Ta'ala will give hikmah if I do this and everything, and then He will not hoard His treasures. He will not hoard His bounties, and He will give for the sake of Allah. What is happening by giving for the sake of Allah? You're depositing what you have in with your sustainer, with your Malik, with your Khalik. And once like I only deposit in a bank that I am confident about, that this bank is going to give me a good return. So whenever we are doing a sadaqah, we are depositing it with Allah Ta'ala, and we have full faith that Allah Ta'ala is going to give it back, and Allah Ta'ala will give. And this is also one of the wisdoms, that only the people of understanding will take heed. Not everyone will understand and appreciate this wisdom. Only people of understanding will appreciate the beauty of this thing, right? And they will give away immediate benefits and pleasures of this life for a reward in an unseen world and at some remote future in the hereafter. This is not easy to do. This is something which is very hard to do, but only those whom Allah gives wisdom can walk this path with confidence. Like, yes, somebody can do it grudgingly, but that confidence and doing it with confidence, it comes from Allah Ta'ala, and He gives this blessing to people. And if we have that blessing, if we are able to give without feeling that tightness in our chest, then we should thank Allah Ta'ala for it as well. Because as we interact more in this world, we'll realize not everyone has this feeling of having this confidence. May Allah Ta'ala make us and keep us of those people who are able to spend in His cause. And then Allah Ta'ala tells us, and whatever you spend of your expenditures or any vows that you make, He knows of all of it, and the wrongdoers have no helpers of it. So here two words are mentioned here, nafaqa, like what you're spending, and nadara, whatever you're vowing, whatever you are making a promise to Allah Ta'ala. Um, anything we spend on, even for our daily needs. So for example, a bite of food that a husband puts in his wife's mouth is put as a sadaqah on his behalf. A woman, we know in Islam, is not required to maintain the family's household expenses. This is not her duty. She can do it if she wants. There's no restriction on her either, but this is not her prime responsibility. So any woman who spends even a dollar or a penny or a rupee or whatever currency or whatever part of the world we are in, if she's spending out of her money on her family, then everything that she's spending on her family is counted as a sadaqah on her behalf. It is so beautiful in our deen. Even smiling is a sadaqah, and smiling especially to our parents is sadaqah. Even when sometimes we are humans and they're humans as well. Sometimes we might be irritated. They might be irritated with us, or if they are upset with us, then we are a bit uncomfortable as well, and we might not feel like smiling, or we are irritated by something and we don't feel like smiling. But then the status of our parents is so high that when we still look at them and smile, Allah Ta'ala gives us so much reward just by smiling. Even for our family members, for example, when a husband comes back from the work tired and everything, and he's really, really tired, and in the night, if the woman presses his tired feet in the night, then if he asks her for it and then she presses it, then she gets the reward of donating some amount of silver in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if he hasn't even asked her and she just presses his feet and his legs and everything and basically helps him relax and everything, then she gets the reward of a sadaqah, like donating a certain amount of gold in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even the things like one of the people I know, it is so beautiful that even when her children are coming from school and she's waiting, she's like, "Ya Allah, these the children who are coming, they are my children. You've put them in my care, but they are your creation, and I'm going to cook for them and feed them for your sake." And it's like when we take that, even our own families, even the people that we love, when we connect it back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah ta'ala adds even our day-to-day expenditure, Allah ta'ala accepts them as a good deed or as a thing for his way as well. Subhanallah. He Whatever we spent, anything that we spent with happiness and whatever according to our means, somebody, one of us might be rich, one of us might be not so rich, doesn't matter how much we have, whatever we have, if we spend from it. And it is not advisable to like keep your children in need either. Like we need to spend on our children as well. If they want something, get them that thing. If they want an activity that is good for them, take them to that activity. If I think something's good for me and everything, my health, and that will benefit me and my family, everybody, then yes, I should. There's no harm in spending for that either. Another thing is nadar. Nadar is like we said, it's a vow to do a certain thing on the condition that if this and this happens, then I will do. Now, another one thing is about another is that it is allowed in our religion, but it's something which is not recommended. It is not something that is encouraged much. Why? Because what we are doing is we are by making a promise that, Ya Allah, if this happens, or if my child is sick, if my child gets cured, I will pray this much, or I'll donate this much, or I'll do this. We are putting a burden on ourselves that Allah Ta'ala did not put on us. Another thing is we're trying to negotiate, right? So we are saying that, yalla, if this happens, then I do this and everything. A better way that our scholars say is do it right away. Like if you're say you're going to say, yalla, if this happens, I will pray 2 rakat of nafil. Then don't wait for it to happen, or don't make this promise or this condition or anything. Pray 2 rakat nafil and then ask Allah Ta'ala, Yalla, I I pray this, like I really want this and please give this to me. Don't put conditions like that. Don't there's no, it's not a sin if you do that. But and if somebody does that and if they have a strong feeling and they want to do it, it's not something that is disallowed or something that is a sin. But it is something that because you have made a condition now, then you have to first of all, there are some things about another. First thing is we cannot make obviously a commitment or a condition like that when we are asking for something for unseen from a dua to anybody except Allah Ta'ala, because we know that it is only Allah who gives things and gratitude is belong to him. So making another to a, let's say, a grave or an idol or a somebody who has passed away or anything, that is forbidden. Obviously we can only make a promise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that sense, that, ya Allah, grant me this or grant me that. And then doing this something, and we cannot do it for haram things, like somebody say that, okay, I will, if this happens, I'll go to this dargah and I'll go to this cover and I'll do this and everything, and no, that is not allowed. And also not for things which are obviously not, you don't make a vow for things which are not like, like I want to open an alcohol store or liquor store or this and that. No, of course not. And that is common sense, that we will be, a Muslim will only be making another if they're making another. They try not to, but if they do, they will make it only for good things. And um, we can do this, like if my child heals from sickness, I will do two nafil roza. Or somebody can vow for their baby to be, somebody's pregnant and they might say that, okay, yeah, Allah, my baby, I will try to raise my child for your cause, that they serve your deen and this and that. So we can make these things and everything. But if we do make a promise like that, then we have to keep it. And if we are not able to keep it, then we have to pay kafara for it. Because why? Because any covenant or promise that we make, small or big, must be fulfilled, unless unless it's something that somebody was not a Muslim and they made a promise before, and which was against, which now they've become a Muslim and it's against the Islamic law and everything, then they can ignore it. Then they don't have to pay kafara and they can just leave it, because obviously it was not correct or done in a good way, which is goes against Islam. But if something does not go against Islam and they made a promise, then we have to fulfill it, because we will be questioned by Allah about the promises we make with others. And there's no leniency in our deen about that. We never break our promises. Even if we make a treaty with somebody and we need to break that treaty, then we have to go and announce to them that, okay, we have from today this, or we give them a certain period of time, that in a month's time or this time, this treaty would be broken. We cannot keep up with this and everything. We cannot go behind somebody's back and then break a treaty. Similarly, when we made a promise, then another or a mannat in our culture, we say, then we have to fulfill it. A Sahaba, a person came to the Prophet ﷺ that he had made another a mannat in his Jahiliyyah time, and that if something happens, he will sacrifice a camel. And that thing has happened, but this was before he was a Muslim. So now, what should he do? Should he do it or should he not do it? So the Prophet ﷺ asked him several questions to check if there's any shirk involved. That why did you ask to sacrifice this camel at this place only, and is there any idol there or this and that? And when the Prophet ﷺ was satisfied, there is no shirk involved, then he said, okay, go ahead and fulfill this then, right? So the thing is that we should be humble in asking Allah Ta'ala and not put conditions in everything. Allah Ta'ala is Ghani. And anything that seems impossible to us or too big for us is for Allah Ta'ala is just kun and it will happen. He just says be and it happens. And He knows of all our charities and all our good that we do. Right? And Allah Ta'ala says, for the unjust people, there are no supporters. And who are the unjust people here? Unjust people are people who are unjust to themselves. They make a vow and then they don't fulfill it. That person is doing dhulm. Any person who's making a vow for something bad or something that is not permissible, that is a person who's doing dhulm. Any person who's not spending where he should be spending, that is doing dhulm as well. And if we think about the worldly wealth and property as the most important things and not spend on charitable causes or good causes, and if a person does spend, they're only spending for the purpose of showing off or to serve false gods and things like that, then that's all dhulm as well and everything, right? So we should try our best that we don't do dhulm on ourselves, because this is first a dhulm on ourselves when we are not spending for the sake of Allah Ta'ala, or when we are spending only for the sake of show off and not really to gain the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala. That's a dhulm on ourselves and our risk that we have that Allah Ta'ala has given us. When this ayah came, then some Sahabas asked the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rasulullah, what kind of charity is better? Is a hidden charity better or an open charity better? And then Allah Ta'ala revealed this next verse, 271, where He says, if you disclose your charitable expenditures, they're good. But if you can conceal them and give them to the poor, it is even better for you. And Allah Ta'ala will, because of this, what Allah Ta'ala will give another fadl that Allah Ta'ala is telling us. He told us that He'll give us a lot. We'll get His maghfirah, we'll get His fadl, we'll get His bounty, His blessing. Then Allah Ta'ala will give us hikmah, right? And he knows of everything we spend and everything, whether it is known to other people or not. And now Allah Ta'ala is saying that He'll remove from us sayyat. He'll remove from us anything that is harmful for us, anything that we don't like, any sickness, any worries, anything that we are troubled about, and even our sins. They're all a kind of sayyat, right? So Allah Ta'ala will remove all of them for us. And so here, Allah Ta'ala, one thing here is sometimes we are in a situation that it is not possible to hide what we are giving, because we might need to discuss with somebody, or we might need to, or it is an open platform, or it's an organization, or whatever, or there's a fundraiser going on and things like that. Then what might happen to a believer is, okay, I was going to do this one, but so many people will come to know. So should I give it? Should I not give it? Right? So what we learn here is that in such situations, it's okay to give openly as well. Don't feel shy about that. It is okay to give openly. Also, when we are giving to an organization or when we are giving our zakat, then it is okay to give it openly. And it is all right to give that openly. But when we are giving to a person, a single person who is in need, then we need to think about that person's sense of self-respect, that person's how would they feel and everything. And even if our own intentions are good, I'm not worried about my show off. I have worked on my own intention. Yet, if I'm giving to an individual person rather than an organization, they might be hurt by their self-respect. Nobody likes to ask for alms, but they are in a situation that they are in need. So the more hidden way we can give to them, the better it is. That nobody else comes to know. It's just between us and the person that we're giving to. Or even if we can give anonymously, that's okay too. But basically the point is whatever is reasonable, but we try to save other people's self-respect in that sense. And sometimes giving openly might be good. When we're giving our zakat or something, it might motivate other people to do so, or it might remind other people somebody had forgotten to give their zakat, and like, oh, she's giving zakat to this organization, oh, this reminded me, I should take it out as well. So there's no harm in that if we're thinking of zakat. Any nafil sadaqah, which is not obligatory, we should try to do it hidden. And any sadaqah which is wajib, which is zakat, we should try to, if it is a place where it is good to share and it will create more benefit, then there is no harm in sharing it as well. And Sahabas, what they used to do was they would give in every situation. They would give hidden as well, and they would give openly as well, right? So, for example, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he gave 40,000 dinars once, 10,000 each time in different causes and everything. But and they also used to do things hidden that he used to in the mornings. We know from an incident that after the Prophet ﷺ had passed, the Prophet ﷺ used to take care of an old lady who was blind, and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he started going to that old lady's house in the morning, and he would go and clean up the house, and he wouldn't say anything to her. He would just go cook for her children, clean up her house, and he was at that time the leader of Muslims. He's like literally a prime minister. Nobody knows before Fajr, he's going to this lady's house who's in need, and he doesn't even tell this lady who he is. He just goes, cleans up the house, and goes. And Umar radiallahu anhu one time was very curious upon where is Abu Bakr going. So one time he followed him and he saw what he's doing. And after Abu Bakr had passed away, Umar went back, went to this lady's house, and he did all of this thing and everything. And when he cleaned up and everything and did everything, put all the supplies and food, and he went back. And then when he came the next day, the lady said, you are not the same person who used to come before, right? Has your companion died and you have now you are coming? So Umar said, yes, but how did you know? And she said, because he used to remove the seeds from the dates when he would give me, like even little details on and Umar then said, like, like I cannot compete with you, ya Abu Bakr. Like the kind of attention to detail and the kind of things you would do, and that was so beautiful that he's going and cleaning up the house of an old lady who's blind. Nobody cares about her. Like she has no money, she has no social status. Nobody cares. Yet he's going doing that extra mile for her. Subhanallah, and how Allah Taala rewards everything, right? There's also hadith that for a human being, every joint that we have has, there's a sadaqah due on it every single day. And there are many kinds of sadaqah we can do, and we can do justice. We can help somebody mount for a journey. We can talking good things is a sadaqah as well. Every step we take towards going for namaz is sadaqah as well. And anything that we give for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sadaqah. And another hadith we learned that there are 7 people who will be in the shade of the arsh of Allah ta'ala on Day of Judgment. And one of them is the one who gives charity in a way that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is giving. Meaning, let's say the wife is giving something and the husband doesn't know, the husband's giving something, the wife doesn't know, the children, like we don't advertise and we don't tell people. Shaitan would always want you to advertise, like tell this person, tell this, and he'll put excuses in the mind. But Allah Ta'ala encourages us to do something hidden, something open, whatever, and depending on what the need is, right? And uh, what happens with sadaqah is Allah's love develops so much that a person starts going away from the bad, and that's one way that Allah Ta'ala removes bad sayyat from that person. Another thing is on the Day of Judgment, because of our sadaqah, a lot of our faults will be hidden on that day. So when we are giving for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is good to feel that happiness in the heart that Ya Allah, I'm getting closer to you. I'm giving this to get closer to you. So there's no harm in feeling that happiness. In fact, that is a sign of faith. If you're feeling it in our heart about doing something good. And Allah Ta'ala knows everything that is hidden and then everything that is open. Through this ayah, we also learn that goodness and good deeds also have levels. So, for example, there is namaz and there is zakat. If both of them are virtuous deeds and both of them are pillars of Islam, we need to do it both of them. But when both of them are together, namaz is a deed which is more rewarded. So rewarded that Allah Ta'ala made it mandatory for us 5 times a day. Zakat, we don't have to do 5 times a day. So there is a more higher status of namaz than that. So similarly, spending has all of it is good, but spending in secret has a higher reward to it. It is more effective in cleansing oneself of evil things. It saves us from hypocrisy, and it saves the needy person from hurt, and it's more graceful for them. May Allah Ta'ala make us of those people who are able to spend in His cause, who are able to give when we should give, and who are able to live our lives in a way that Allah Ta'ala is pleased with us. May Allah Ta'ala grant us all hikmah. May Allah Ta'ala save us from those companions companions or from those people who take us away from following the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah ta'ala give us of those people who encourage us towards the path of Allah ta'ala, and we encourage them towards the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah Ta'ala grant us of those people who He accepts and gives us the shade of His throne on the day of judgment, when there will be no shade except His. May Allah Ta'ala reunite us as sisters in Jannatul Firdaus, just like He united us as sisters in this world. Any goodness that comes from this talk is from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala alone. He owns all the treasures of goodness, all the treasures of hikmah, all the treasures of anything that we can imagine and we cannot imagine. May Allah Ta'ala help us to appreciate the things that He has given us. May Allah Ta'ala help us to utilize them in a way that He is pleased with them. And may Allah Ta'ala accept our coming together for His sake. Any shortcomings in this talk are mine and mine alone, because I'm a human being open to mistakes. May Allah Ta'ala forgive my shortcomings, and may Allah Ta'ala accept us, these from all of us, regardless, whoever listens to it right now or whoever listens to it at a later date. ربنا تقبل منا ومنكم آمين يا أرحم الراحمين. سبحانك اللهم أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.